Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Career Week. My name is Ellie Garrity. I'm the manager of alumni career programs at the University of Maryland Alumni Association, and we are so excited that you're able to join us for today's webinar and panel discussion, Leaping into Leadership. This webinar is brought to you by the Alumni Association's Career Week, in which we hope to provide you meaningful and professional development opportunities with your fellow Terps. This webinar is recorded today, so by participating, you acknowledge and consent to your image, likeness, or voice being recorded. We have a lot of information to cover, and as you can see, we have three wonderful panelists with us today. We will do 30 minutes of a panel discussion, and then you will have the chance to dive further in with one of these panelists and have a one-on-one session with them for the last 30 minutes of this panel. So a little bit about the presentation itself. We will go ahead and start the panel discussion, and I will give our panelists a moment to really introduce themselves. So I'm going to pass it right over to Charlotte. Charlotte, could you introduce yourself, share a little bit about you, your profession, and how you leapt into leadership?
Hi, Ellie. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. I'm glad to be joining my fellow Terps. I'm from Maryland, but been in California the last couple of decades. My name is Charlotte Wagner. I graduated in 1990 with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. And I've kind of always had two sides of me, engineer and leader. So I will try to put this in the chat, but I wrote a blog recently for the alumni group website, and I called it, I Did It All, Just Not All at Once. So actually, it's interesting, my arc of leaping into leadership. I graduated 30 years ago, so I was an engineer for 13 and a half years. Then I took 3 years off to raise my son, and then I've been a leader and a manager for 13 and a half years. Anyway, a bit more about me. I'm currently the general manager of the Southern California branch for Schneider Electric, where I manage the P&L and a group of leaders that we install and develop building automation for the Southern California market here. I'm also very involved in SWE, Society of Women Engineers, as well as Association of Energy Engineers. And those volunteer activities actually helped me see that I wanted to go into leadership. And I'm sure I'll talk more later, but I'll let everyone else introduce themselves. Thanks, Ellie.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'll pass it over to Pramod. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey, everybody. Nice to have you all here in Zoom. Wish we could do this in person, of course. Would be much more fun and great to meet everybody. So I'm a 91 aerospace engineering graduate from the University of Maryland. And so definitely a big Terp. Most of my family went there. That's how I met my wife as well at the university. She was a mechanical engineering major as well. And just like Charlotte. And so for the past number of years, I kind of came out of school, and I would say I went down some alternative paths. I became a commercial airline pilot, and along the way became an entrepreneur and have started a number of businesses. And I'd say that what I work with a lot of people that are sort of mid-career that are looking to do something totally different. So I might be a little bit of a different panelist, but I think it'll be fun and we'll get to learn a little bit about each other. Currently, I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Airgility, which is a University of Maryland spin-out, actually. So I came back to my alma mater here and spun a company out. And that's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun re-engaging with the university. I look forward to talking more here on the panel and the breakout. Thank you.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Jainaba, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, evening, everyone. My name is Jainaba Ceesay. I am a graduate of the Smith School and Executive MBA program in 2017 and a cohort 16. I came in to pursue my executive MBA when I've been in corporate, have been given a lot of opportunities, and at some point got into, I would say, mid-level. And I was like, there's so many other great things that I could do. And if you live in this DC area and listen to the local WAMU, which is a NPR affiliate, you hear a lot about fearless executive programs. So that got me into exploring that. And I would say that has become one of the rewarding for me taking that leap into that, and upon graduating, founded my own company, EBROSSO Consulting. Be glad to share more about how that happened from corporate into transitioning into my own. Thank you. I'm honored to be part of this great panel.
Thank you so much. I love to hear from the panelists themselves how they would talk about the great work they've done. So let's kick things off here. I know you are all in places of power and leaders among your communities. I see Charlotte say, oh no, I'm not sure, but I really would love to hear from you all. How did you get there? And was there a specific aha moment that you said, oh wow, I've really made it and I have made that leap into leadership? And I'm going to kick that one over to Pramod to start.
Great. So first of all, I would, for me personally, this is just a personal sort of, I never think of myself as sort of having made it, right? There's always something else that you could be pursuing. So it's really a goal that, it really depends on your personal goals. For me, while I mentioned in my opener that I'm an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you're a good leader or manager just because you start a company. And so for the past, I want to say 16 or 17 years, I've been really focused on how can I be the best leader possible in terms of leading a company. So really focus more on the CEO role. And it's not something that just you automatically become. You have to grow into it. You have to be intentional about it. I believe it was Charlotte just earlier now in her intro said something about volunteering in these different roles. I would say that has been huge for me, is having volunteer roles, both in the nonprofit sector, as well as, sort of industry groups and things that I'm involved with in what I'm doing in my domain that have been really crucial in the growth of my own personal development to be able to do these things, because you end up having to work with various people on boards and you have to collaborate, you have to work with different personalities. And that's where I think you really grow, when you start to really be able to understand how to work with a wide range of personalities and individuals. And so for me, over the past 15 or 16 years, the growth has occurred because of these intentional things. And the other thing I'll add as well is the unseen work that you do after hours. What do you do outside of your job that allows you to become better? Whether it's reading, whether it's watching LinkedIn learning videos, or whatever that means to you, or a combination thereof, podcasts. I think what I do every year is put together kind of an annual growth plan. What does that look like for me? How many books a month do I want to read? Or and there's many ways you can hack the systems. As we get further into the conversation here in the breakout, I'll give you some hacks on how you can really get a lot of knowledge in a short amount of time, because it's hard for all of us to read as many books as we'd like to, but there are hacks. So I'll save that one. Thank you.
I love that. Thanks. The annual growth plan. That sounds a lot less daunting than maybe goals for 2021. I love that language there. Charlotte, do you have anything to add there?
Yes, want to add on to what Pramod said, and I forgot to say in my intro, I've been in California for 22 years, and I'm from Maryland, so I was looking for something to get in the Maryland mood. So I don't know if you could see it. I have this little crab pin with the Maryland colors. First, for those of you looking to get into leadership, my first thing, and some of you are on the phone that know me, my first thing is I would say, make sure it's what you want to do. I believe in heroes in every role, and that it's really the career path that you want to be. Like, being a people manager and going into leadership might not be for everyone. So I've had many people throughout my career who think they want to be a manager or a CEO, but really that's what they thought they had to do in order to move up. I'm a proponent in senior engineers, principal design engineers. So first of all, there's heroes in every role. But second, I was thinking in preparation for these, and I have two things to share, especially as a woman. I didn't mean to make it kind of like, oh, who me, but kind of face, but it definitely is who me, especially for women as you move up through leadership. It's kind of an extension of the fake it till you make it. I've always said that I act as if I know what I'm doing, even if I feel like I don't. Maybe I act as if I know what I'm doing, and then acting as if I'm knowing what I'm doing, and then knowing what I'm doing converge. So that's helped me make that leap into leadership. And then the second thing I wanted to share was, as you're going from a frontline or mid-level manager to a higher level leader, it's no longer about just your work or just your group's work, that oftentimes there are disparate groups that, like right now at Schneider Electric, we all have the same goal of selling certain products. There are different groups that maybe are incentivized different ways, but I try to look at the common goals. So as you move higher up, you have to look at the higher level goals and not necessarily just your goals or your group.
That's helpful. I really appreciate that. As you kind of move up, you really have to broaden your horizons, and you can't really narrow in on just the things that you're doing. I see the other panelists were nodding their heads there. Jainaba, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I will say for me, talking to my younger self, I think for me, what happened is, and I think when we first met, our pre-meeting, I was saying that, when you find yourself being promoted very quickly because of your performance targets that you keep meeting, right? So there was not much of a mentorship that I seek. There wasn't more, like Pramod was saying, intentionality in my own, right? It's just keep moving very fast. I will say I started at a very small bank in 2001. I came from the Gambia in 1999. So I'm always going, I've always been a non-traditional student, been working full-time and also go to school from Montgomery College to University of Maryland, University College, where I got my undergrad. And of course, when I did my executive MBA. So there wasn't much, it was more like, okay, you go to work in the morning and you get your degree. When you get the degree, you will figure out what to do with it, right? So there wasn't much of that correlation into that. But fortunately, I get promoted very quickly. And at some point, then I got stuck, and I will, when we get to the breakout session, I'll talk about the book that's there, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I think that's what also led into me getting into my, executive MBA program, where I got to learn a lot of things that I wish I learned. And I think I heard Charlotte mention this, as you go along, it's not more about you anymore as an individual contributor. It's about the greater good when you go up there, have the emotional intelligence, how you come across and able to manage the room, manage a whole lot of things. So we'll talk about that more in detail. But definitely for those of you who are fortunate to have the Alumni Association and have the benefits of what the alumni offer, there's a lot of intentionality and planning of what you do to leap into that next phase of your career.
Yes, I appreciate that response and the plug for the Alumni Association. We're here for you at every stage of your career. So I've been taking notes about some of the kind of skills, whether they're hard skills or soft skills, and some of the things that you need to do to really get to the leadership level that you want to be in. I know, Pramod, you mentioned volunteering and kind of using that ability to get you where you want to be. Would you say that you've had to rely on some of your soft skills to get you where you are, or your hard skills? Is it a mixture of both? Or to Charlotte's point, do you just kind of fake it till you make it with some of those skills until they sharpen up? Anyone here can take a stab at this if you'd like.
I'll just do a quick start by saying that, traditionally we call these skills hard and soft skills. My view on that has changed over the years to where they are necessary skills. Like, so when I'm talking about specifically is traditionally what we call soft skills, right? The ability to be put into a room, for example, with people you've never met and to immediately start working together, to be able to organize and put together an agenda, to be able to do a lot of things that maybe to some of us are natural and to some of us are not so natural. But those soft skills that you're referring to are, I think, necessary these days for anything in leadership. You've got to be able to. So I'll just start with that. This that I look at them a little bit differently, that those soft skills are absolutely necessary skills. Some of that is just being able to plan something, being able to lead a group into doing an event is a great way to get some of those skills. Like, I think one of the things that I've done over the years is put together events kind of like this, where, you're putting the event together and you have to work with many different personalities and people to make it happen and be part of it, and you're not the only thing that's part of it. So of the whole thing, you're not the only thing, you're part of the whole thing, and you have to be able to make that work. And that kind of experience could just propel you quite a bit if you, but a lot of people I'd say that I've met sometimes are kind of like, I don't know if I can do that, right? I don't know if I have the ability to do that. And I think you just have to put yourself out there and you'll figure it out. and Jainaba really actually brought up a good point. And a lot of that can be achieved with mentoring. Seek out mentors, like seek out people that you feel like, hey, they've got it really going on. They know what they're doing. I'd love to maybe just have lunch. Mentoring comes in all kinds of forms. It doesn't have to be just like I've got this one mentor. It just could be, I'm going to go to lunch with somebody. I know COVID makes that hard, but then you could do the Zoom meet and greets, which I do a lot of as well. So I'll pass on to somebody else. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I like what Pramod said, that it's necessary skills, not hard and soft. Like I actually have, it's no longer soft skills. Soft skills makes it sound like it's something fluffy, but I was talking to an HR person. I mean, they're hard skills, emotional intelligence, getting along with people. So I would say that is almost more important. That said, it's kind of a bonus when people have recently seen me as a leader and then I say something super nerd or engineering, like, oh, you know that too. So that's definitely a bonus, but it's I would say the soft skills that personally for me, what has helped the most, I call it extreme networking. Like it's not necessarily just your hard skills, but can you get along with people, use those relationships. So Schneider Electric's a huge company. It's 130,000 people. This may sound like, oh, how does she find the time to do this? But anytime I'm CC'd or I'm introduced to someone I don't know, I then get on a one-on-one with them, a one-on-one call. It means my calendar is quite booked. But it means that I then have those relationships with people if we need something later or they need something from me. So my soft skill that I use is, I call it extreme networking, but it's definitely important.
Okay, and if I may add to that, like everyone's saying about the soft skills, hard skills, I also look at it more task versus relationship management, right? The ones that from a hard standpoint, you need those skills to perform the role and be successful in it, right? Now, when it comes to working with other people, for me, when I've managed my own individual financial centers that I've led, I thought that was it. Okay, I lead my people, I take care of them, they good, right? Now, collaborating with people on the lateral side, that's where it also become another challenge to manage those people who don't report to you, right? To get them to get things done. And if you are someone who is more, task related, you just want to get things done and move along. When people don't do that, it could kind of like aggravate you. But how do you make it in a nice way? I think they call it playing nice in the sand. I've heard all those. How do you do all that? Are all skills that we will learn along, because you don't know where those people will be in rooms that your name will be mentioned that you are not there. That will take you to that next level.
That's a good point about playing nice in the sandbox is how I've heard it explained. And I really agree, Charlotte, with your comment about necessary skills instead of saying hard skills versus soft skills. I think that's a huge differentiator. So bonus question that our panelists don't know is coming. Can you think back to a specific point in your career that was maybe a make or break moment for you and how you reacted? And while you're thinking, I guess I'll set the stage. A lot of folks that are participating right now are at that kind of mid-level management, whether they're managing a team right now or they're potentially looking to manage more of a team and take that next step in their career. Can you think of a moment where you were in that spot, and what advice would you give your fellow Terp at that moment? Would it be something along sharpen up some of those necessary skills? Would it be continue to play nice in the sandbox? Would it be find those one-on-one Zoom calls like we've mentioned, or is there something else out there? I'll give you a minute to think since I didn't prep you with this one, but if anyone's ready to jump in.
Can you describe a bit more when you say make or break point? What do you mean, like a specific incident that happened? Or?
Yeah, if you could think of an incident, that'd be great, but just any general advice for mid-management folks at that kind of leaping point.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'll start. I have a story from where I was probably the kind of role you're describing where you're sort of, you've got the opportunity to kind of leap forward. And at that time I was a senior account manager doing software sales, software SaaS type sales. This was about 10 years ago. And it was sort of a new thing to me, the kind of thing I was doing, the kind of sales I was doing. And I think Jainaba brought it up good. Brought it up really well just a minute ago around being able to play well in the sandbox, as you've described it, right? Which is while I was managing a small group and while I was managing a client base, really in order to make things happen, you had to work well with other stakeholders that were your colleagues. They weren't necessarily reporting to you, but you still needed to get things done from, the computer engineering side of things, tech support, and also the professional services side of the business. So there were things that your clients wanted and you had to make sure it happened internally. And so you're working with a range of people from internal stakeholders to external stakeholders. You were conducting sales. And I think a turning point for me was when, these kind of things were popping up and some good opportunities were popping up, and really kind of grabbing the bull by the horns and just making sure that things got done. And I'll tell you a very specific story and then we'll move on. We were going live with a deployment, which was, it was a several $1 million deployment. It was a big deal in this company. It was a small company at the time. And I gave my cell phone number to the program manager for our client. And some of the people I worked with said, oh, well, I just answer the phone 9 to 5. I'm not giving my clients their cell phone, right? They had sort of a different approach. And I said, look, I'm going to give my cell phone because if they need me for something, I'm here, sort of thing. So sure enough, on a Sunday night, I get a phone call at 12:30 at night. And it's from the program manager who's absolutely freaking out. I get a voicemail from her and she says, we're going live tomorrow morning and it's not working and blah, blah, blah. And I called her back and I said, let's calm down and tell me what's going on. She told me, I said, hey, have you contacted tech support? Because they're kind of supposed to be on it. And she says, yeah, I haven't returned my call yet. So then this goes back to some soft skills that you guys just talked about, or necessary skills. So I called tech support because I got everybody's internal number and internally. And I said, hey guys, what's going on? Did you get this? Did you get this message from? Actually, her name was Ellie as well. And they said, yeah, we got it. We're working on it. I said, well, did you let her know that? Oh no, we haven't called her back yet. I said. Let's step one. Let's call her back and make sure she knows you're on this. So make a long story short, I stayed up till about 4:30 in the morning, shepherding through all this. And when I rolled into the office the next day, I rolled in about 10:30, 11 a.m. after sleeping for a few hours. I was an absolute hero that day. From the CEO on down, I had notes in my inbox just about, wow, we and here's the other thing that you'll enjoy from the story for some of you that are on the call. Before that, this was before people worked from home. This was a culture where they wanted you in the office. I didn't like that culture. I like the hybrid culture. Yeah, I like to have a little flexibility, which I think a lot of people like. And so I had a reputation of not always being in the office. After this incident, nobody ever questioned ever again my focus and my intentionality. No matter where I was on the job, sort of thing. So again, make a long story short, I got promoted after that. I didn't stay in that job because I wanted to move on, but I did get promoted. So just to let you know that that sometimes you do things after hours that really will make your career because people see that you are on it. Sorry, that was long.
Yeah, that was helpful. That really painted the full picture. Does anyone have another story to tell? We have a couple minutes before we go into breakout rooms, or else.
I'll go with the one slightly different from what you asked, and not so much a specific incident, but how I decided to make that leap into leadership and what that was. I'm trying to figure out how to use the chat to put my blog in, but I wrote a blog for the University of Maryland alumni blog. If you go on that site, it's called I Did It All, just not all at once. So basically I have 3 kind of distinct 13 and a half years as an engineer, then 3 years as a stay-at-home mom, and 13 and a half years as a leader. So I have a blog about that. But basically my son was born in 2004 and I stayed home with him for 3 years, and it was a cherished time that I'll never forget. But it made me reflect on, well, if I go back to work, what do I really want to do? And I didn't want to be an individual contributor or just an engineer. So I was actually planning on just retiring forever at that point. Obviously I didn't do that. So I had a clear picture due to my volunteer activities that I really wanted to be a people manager and a leader. I had applied for things a while back and people didn't give me a chance. But I had that very clear picture while I was staying home for 3 years. And then I had an opportunity from someone who I used to work with. This goes back to that extreme networking. And he said, gosh, we're started this company. We have a Northern California office. We'd like to start the Southern California office. Would you like to lead it? And that's how I got back in. So it was a very deliberate thought process of what I felt would work best for me.
Awesome. And I just dropped the link to your blog in the chat. So hopefully
Okay.
folks can follow up and read the full post. And Jainaba, did you want to add anything to that before we go to breakout rooms? Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. When I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements, always, I get to be asked, what gets you here? What gets you here? So like I said, along the way for me, because I moved up very, very quickly, when I first became a manager, I think I was only 26 years old, managing my peers, so like I said, a lot of things has been taken for granted. And like I was even reflecting before I joined today, I remember a time that I was asked to go lead an office which wasn't doing very well, doing very poorly. And I was asking my regional president back, I'm like, why do you want me to go there? I just came here for a year, I'm doing very well. He said, well, that's the same reason we wanted you to go. So it took a lot of arm twisting. Then they're like, okay, now you go in and apply. I'm like, apply? You don't want me to go there and you want me to apply for the job? They're like, well, you still have to apply. So anyway, it took some arm twisting and I did that. But I kind of like got used to that. And when I left BB&T Bank to go to M&T Bank, I was recruited also. So it took a recruiter up to 3 months to get me to go there. So it's always been giving the opportunity for me. Here's the opportunity to go. So I would say for me, the make or break for me, I would share a break. Because for me, being used to all that all along, I thought I was the best of the best. Jobs is always giving to me. Then I finally applied for a role that I wanted and I didn't get it. So for me, it was a break moment for me. How was I able to turn from that? It was very hard for me, very, very hard. But talking to my sponsor in the organization, who at that time, was leading the entire retail side, he told me, he said, Jainaba, I've been here for 35 years. There's so many jobs that I've applied for, it didn't work out. So let this not be kind of like the end. So kind of having that person who you will talk to when you just feel like you're about to have a breakdown for a job that you finally apply for, you don't get it, could be hard. So that's what I wanted to share in my end. Hopefully it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate the authenticity there. I know it's hard work to get to where you are. And sometimes you don't get the job that you really wanted and you applied to. So I appreciate you sharing that. So I think we're just about at 3:30. I know we've had a nice little warm up here. You've had a chance to get to know our panelists just a little bit, but now you'll have the opportunity to be placed into a breakout room with one of our 3 panelists. So my colleague Christine will be sending us all into breakout rooms. And we've of course done this randomly, but if there is a person that you've connected with specifically, or you're really passionate about kind of their line of work, just raise your hand when you get to the breakout room and myself or my colleague Christine can transition you into another room. But just give us a quick moment and we will be sending you on your way for the next 20-25 minutes with one of our panelists. So hold tight, everyone.
Thank you.
And so I'll give a couple here. One is leadership hack. It's not really a hack, but when I look at myself as a leader, I look at myself as an athlete. Like if you think about a sports athlete, and what really good sports athlete does not have a coach? So I think if you're thinking about, you have a leadership journey, and you're thinking you have aspirations and goals, having a coach is really key, I feel. So I've had different coaches over the years. And there's different coaches for different things. If you're in mid-level and you're trying to move to upper level management, whatever, there's actual coaches that will help you with that specifically, and how you become better. And then the book hack. So 2 things I tell everybody. One, you don't have to read an entire book. You can use apps like Blinkist is one example, and Blinkist has a few competitors. I like Blinkist, it's easy. You can listen to it. And so speaking of listening to these books, of course, Audible is another one, but Audible will go through the whole book. Blinkist will take bite-sized chunks and tell you what you need to know. And the other concept I use, it's called dead time. So do these kind of, so if you don't have any, if you're saying to yourself, I have no time to read, I've got kids, I've got work, I make dinner and then it's 9 o'clock and I'm ready to go to bed. Or I remember reading books to my kids and falling asleep, even though I maybe had an hour or two of work left and I never get to it because I was always falling asleep reading books to my kids. Use dead time. So what I mean by that is I will listen to Blinkist when I'm shaving or on a bus or in transit somewhere when you have a ton of dead time. So you can learn a lot just in those little few minutes here and there. That's my big hack. Use these apps and use dead time.
I love that. And I see a little shout out in the chat. Be an expert at in one thing first before branching out. That's something that some folks learned from your session. And Jainaba, last but not least, I will kick it over to you. Any final words of wisdom for our
Yes, it got cut off, so I would get a chance to seize the moment. One of the questions was about a sponsorship, how to seek a sponsor, right? And one of the things I realized for me, the sponsors don't even know that they're a sponsor in that organization, right? And they're very, very high up. So for me, how I got in front of sponsors is, you know how your manager want to show their best people, best things like that. So when they come to visit, I have that one-on-one opportunity and I did follow up. But if you don't have the opportunity for the higher up to come and see your office, when you are invited to meetings, like one of the things I share is part of my strength finder is I'm a strategic person, visionary. So I always share information beyond the four walls of just my own revenue center or cost center. So the ability to be able to give that big picture conversation to those higher ups over there, how we compare to the competition, how can we do better, has always get me that shining light to have the opportunity to have that sponsor. But they didn't even know that they're a sponsor, but they have helped me take away a lot of roadblocks and constraints when I have to meet other people in the organization to move my projects forward.
I love that. And I'm getting a lot of notes in the chat. How can we access these resources? How can we get all this information? I have recorded this webinar, so you will be able to access this information, and I'll ask our panelists to just send over a couple of their recommendations. We'll include Charlotte's blog. We can include some of Pramod's notes about dead time, I think it was, and maybe a few others. So I'll send that all out in an email after this webinar ends, and I'm sure everyone has a 4 o'clock to run to. So I thank you all for spending an hour with us, and we hope to see you at another event during Career Week. And huge thank you to our panelists for taking the time to share their wisdom. And last but not least, go Terps, and everyone stay safe and stay healthy and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.